Before we start the video guys, be sure to go over to my channel and click subscribe. We're getting closer and closer to our 100 subscriber goal now, and I appreciate every single one of you that's gone over to my channel and clicked subscribe. And with that, enjoy the video. Assassin's Creed is at an interesting point in its history. With a rumoured 11 full-length games in development, every small change that's made to the basic Assassin's Creed formula can make a huge difference in future entries. So here's 5 changes I suggest the developers make in future Assassin's Creed entries in order to make the RPGs more accessible for more players. If you enjoyed this list, don't forget to like the video, and as always, please subscribe. Let's get started. Number 1. More opportunity for stealth gameplay. Now, we all know that Assassin's Creed has moved away from the classic stealth gameplay that made it so popular, and that's okay. It's all down to personal preference really as to who prefers what, but one thing that could bring more old Assassin's Creed fans into the newer games is including more opportunities for stealth gameplay. By that, I don't necessarily mean bringing back the old tailing missions or anything like that. Assassin's Creed has well and truly moved on from those days. By more opportunities for stealth, I mean that Ubisoft needs to put more effort into re-establishing the assassination mechanic. In the last couple of games especially, assassination has been a very secondary mechanic after the combat system, for a few very good reasons. Number 1, it interferes with the RPG systems of the new games. It's difficult to justify a levelling system if it's entirely possible to bypass it by sneaking away through the game and assassinating opponents 3 times your current level. I would say to counter this point that having the choice of sneaking past with the threat of being absolutely deleted by any enemy who sees you can actually provide a massively increased opportunity for challenge in the game, at least not one that's provided by the unnatural power creep. Number 2, assassinating opponents could force players into choosing less meaningful and interesting styles of gameplay by changing what options they select through the skill tree. On the contrary, I'd say that it would be an easy task to implement stealth options onto the skill tree, while also retaining the ability to assassinate any opponents. Suggestions of abilities to add to the skill tree could be a smoke bomb that also automatically repositions our assassin a few feet away, or even a blowpipe that makes higher level enemies easier to assassinate as it thins their cone of vision. All in all, assassination is a very easy mechanic to re-include into Assassin's Creed, with non-restrictive assassination abilities adding a sense of risk when sneaking into high level areas. Assassin's Creed Valhalla massively stripped back the loot game that was present in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I have vivid memories of searching for specific gear sets in Odyssey, but in Valhalla I kind of went with whatever looked cool or did the most damage. It was a much shallower form of looting, and I think it massively cut the enjoyment I usually get from RPG looting systems out of Valhalla. With Assassin's Creed Codename Red being set in Japan, there's a goldmine of ancient history to draw inspiration from in order to create an interesting loot pool. If Ubisoft reintroduced a more varied loot game, then I think that would have attracted a lot of people who felt like they missed out on the loot system in Odyssey when they played Valhalla. That's the bottom line on that one, so on to number 3. Number 3 is an issue that I had with Assassin's Creed Valhalla that was mainly to do with the lack of excitement as I leveled up, but also played a part in decreasing the power gain I felt as I collected new loot. Valhalla's skill tree included a lot of raw stats as part of its levelling system, and I think that came to its detriment. Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Origins both had far less stat-focused skill trees, and that made them feel much more interesting. For this change to truly be implemented, I believe there should be a rebalancing of how stats compare in Assassin's Creed Codename Red. In Valhalla, the stats were mainly distributed directly to the player, which then meant that most of the skill tree had to be made up of raw stats in order to allow the level gates in the world to be bypassed. This meant that there was less of a need to loot as many stats that were given to the player, so any stats provided by the gear were less meaningful and gear was mostly cosmetic. The player in Valhalla leveled up often, but it was rare that leveling up would provide any meaningful upgrade to your gameplay, as it was basically just a stat boost. My offer, therefore, is a solution to this problem. In Codename Red, stats should be mainly distributed through gear. This would be paired with far less frequent leveling up, as that would give the developers the chance to make each level up far more meaningful and include a skill tree that was entirely made up of a selection of useful abilities split into different paths and playstyles. This also gives the gear a chance to shine, and gives incentive to loot and discover more of the game to seek out loot. It's a far more lucrative reason to explore more of the game than just XP for more raw stats. In addition to this, hidden blades should be a form of lootable gear, maybe as a special reward that could be obtained by completing side content that's based on stealth gameplay. That not only solves the issue of assassination being incompatible with the RPG, but it makes it entirely possible for players to play the new game as a classic Assassin's Creed game without missing out on the loot game as well. Those would be my suggestions to improve the loot game of Assassin's Creed. Number 4 on this list is going to be controversial to some people. I'd suggest that in future, Assassin's Creed games keep their story to a maximum of around 25 to 30 hours, and then reinforce that with lots of post-game content and DLC. With the inclusion of an endgame to keep players interested, that would allow for the playtime the executives at Ubisoft like seeing, without making the game too much of a drag for more casual players. For example, I really struggled to finish the story in Odyssey, and completely failed to complete it in Valhalla. 60 to 70 hours is just ridiculous for a main story, and there are far better ways to keep player attention than to expand the story to ludicrous lengths or to force a massive amount of side content. With a tight, focused 25 to 30 hour main campaign, followed by a couple of 10-hour endgame stories and then a wealth of endgame loot content and DLC, Assassin's Creed could fully commit to the RPG style that it's partly entering into at the moment, but do so more effectively, and making sure that more people finish the story that the storytellers have put so much effort into making. On to the last entry on this list. My final suggestion on this list of how to improve Assassin's Creed is another controversial one. I'd suggest that Assassin's Creed Codename Red focused on moving to a more precise, less animation based form of combat. Let me explain. Assassin's Creed Valhalla makes Ivor into a killing machine, but doing so in a very imprecise, cinematic form of combat that focuses far more on looking cool than feeling cool. You never really feel in full control of Ivor's movements in Valhalla, but I'd love for this to be different in Codename Red. I don't mean that combat can't look cool as well though. Games that absolutely nail this feeling of precise combat are games like Ghost of Tsushima, another game set in Japan. Combat in Ghost of Tsushima is simple but elegant, and makes you feel truly in control of your character. Assassin's Creed doesn't need to totally transfer to this, but the addition of the way its parrying and basic attacks work would most definitely benefit combat in Codename Red. The addition of the stun attacks and finishes from Valhalla could mesh the combat system together nicely to create a truly immersive, precise but animation featuring form of combat, perfect for a ninja assassin. And those were my 5 ways that I'd improve Assassin's Creed in time for Codename Red. Did you agree with any of them? And how would you change the main game to be a better version of the RPG Assassin's Creed? Let me know down in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye bye.